Hi everybody, and welcome to the Shoemaker workshop number 51. Today we're going to learn how do we banish bad thoughts from our head. It's an important question because a lot of us oftentimes throughout the day we get these bad thoughts popping up from like, where'd that come from? And we want to be able to learn how to expel them and not have them affect us for long periods of time. So we're going to basically go through an entire Torah of Rebbe Nachman in Likutei Moharan, which is Torah Resh Lamed Gimel, or you have your notes here for tonight. You can follow on with the notes, and if you don't need the notes, you don't want the notes, that's also fine. But really fundamentally, we have a crisis in our heads. When you really look at it, that's where the big crisis is. We have, in a sense, a war almost all the time that goes on inside of our heads. And we need to know how to effectively fight the war. For example, there's wars going on now, and terrible, but it's true. Our boys are being killed from time to time in, say, Gaza and other places. So we don't throw soldiers into a battlefield. Well, maybe some countries do when they're really desperate. But generally speaking, you're not supposed to do that. You're not supposed to send soldiers into a war without proper training, right? So it's the same with us. So that we're in a war on a constant basis every single day, like 24/7. Even when we sleep, that's a separate issue, but it's true. Even when we sleep, we can also have thoughts that can disturb us. So we need to know how to effectively fight the war. One fundamentally important strategy. We're not dealing with 10 strategies, 12 strategies. One strategy, and that's it. And that basically Rebbe Nachman is going to tell us if we use this one strategy, we discipline ourselves and train ourselves in this one strategy, we'll be able to banish the bad thoughts and and fantasies and other kind of things that we don't want inside of our own heads. So let's begin Likutei Moharan 233. Let's see what Rebbe Nachman says. He introduces this Torah with the following thought: Kshemit gabrim al adam machshavot ra'ot v'hirhurim. When a person gets overwhelmed with bad thoughts, you can call them evil thoughts, but I'd really rather prefer to call them just bad thoughts. Bad thoughts and hirhurim. Hirhurim, like we'll call them fantasies, right? Basically, imaginations. And you know that you shouldn't be imagining what you're imagining. V'hu mitchazek umitgaber alehem umenatzech otam. And if the person, this is a good thing, he strengthens himself and he defeats these bad thoughts and these fantasies that are in his head, and he's victorious. This is something very good. What happens? Yesh lakadosh baruch hu ta'anu gadol mizeh. That the blessed one, the holy one, blessed be he gets tremendous, when we say nachat ruach, right? He gets pleasure from this. A lot of pleasure, a great amount of pleasure from this. V'hu yakar mo, this is very, very precious. Be'enei Hashem yiprach, in the eyes of Hashem. So, great. So, fine. So tell me now what we're supposed to do. What's the strategy? Now, before we get into the strategy, we need to know that many times we think that we have strategies, but really, in the end of the day, they're not going to work. And so also, Rebbe Nachman is going to discuss this, that there are sometimes things we think we might want to do on our own. We think, if I do X, Y, Z, it should work. And Rebbe Nachman is going to say no. So how do we know that he's right? How does anybody know that, for example, when Rebbe Nachman says, or any other great tzaddik says, how do we know that any of them are actually right? So the answer is, you look at the fruits of their life. If you see somebody who's a tremendous tzaddik, like Rebbe Nachman, and you know that he's a tremendous tzaddik, then you would be more inclined to listen to that person. That's just the way it's going to be. So this is the case here with why should we even listen to the advice of Rebbe Nachman? Because he was of such a level that you know that what he's saying is credible because he actually used these strategies and he used them to literally overcome, his own thoughts that he didn't want to have in his own head. Now, before he gets into the actual strategy itself, what he does is he tells us what's called a mashal, like a parable. It's a story that we can lay our hands on and grab hold of, and after we forget the whole lesson, because that's what we do, we forget, we're human beings, what's so high? So we have a problem with forgetfulness. But one thing that Rebbe Nachman always knew, and it's very true, and it's very true to this day today, that the way people remember and the best way to teach people is through stories. So if it's going to happen, let's say that it happens, that you're going to forget the main thread of this teaching next week or a week later, 2 weeks from now, you might have a chance of remembering the story. You might remember the parable, the mashal, and that will therefore you'll be able to reattach to that story, and from there reconstruct the teaching and the strategy. That's why we teach in mashalim, in parables. So let's see what the parable is that Rebbe Nachman brings down to illustrate how we're going to combat and fight off these bad thoughts that are in our head. Kamashal sheyesh etzo hamalachim lifamim beyoma defagra. We have kings on this day called the day of Fagra. What is the Yoma de Fagra? So basically it's understood to be in, let's say, Talmud discourse, it's like a vacation day. It's a day off. National whatever day, Independence Day, Memorial Day, free summer vacation day, whatever the case may be in your own country. Everybody lives in different countries, and each of these different countries has different kind of vacation days, special national holidays. So that's what this is. It is a Yoma de Fagra. And the kings, what would they do on these big special national holidays? Hen manichim kama chayot shenatzchu ze im ze. They would put pit animals against each other in contests. They thought, hey, this is kind of fun to watch. So they might get, say, a lion, and they might get a big giant, lizard, and put them into the same pen, and then they all stand, they watch this thing. Great entertainment. Shehem Omedim, they would stand, these kings, Umistaklim, and they would watch. V'yesh lahem tanu gadol, and they would have this, wow, this is great fun. Today people go to the movies, they go to the beach. Back then they would watch these contests between animals, watch them fight. Min hanitzachon. They would have lots of pleasure watching this whole competition, this whole battle. So it's very similar to in many ways to what happened back in the old days in Rome. People used to they would go to the circus, and they would watch these contests, gladiator fights, and other kind of things. They were pretty brutal, and in those cases, human beings died. But here we're not dealing with humans; we're just dealing with wild animals. Obviously, one would die and one would live. Still, in America, they used to also do these with chicken fights, rooster fights, and cock fights. So it's not so strange that people used to do these kind of things. But that's the mashal. That's the mashal. Let's go on. Kumochen, just like that, Rebbe Nachman says, Hamachshavot, the thoughts, Heim ba'im mi bechinat achayot. He's basically painting a picture that the thoughts that we get in our mind, good thoughts, bad thoughts, they're like this mashal. They're like the animals in the mashal. Umachshavot kedoshot heim bechinot chayot taharot. And the good thoughts, they're like an aspect of pure kosher animals. Umachshavot raot heim bechinat chayot tameot. And the bad thoughts, they're like non-kosher animals. He said, that's like what's going on in our heads. It's like inside of our heads is the arena that we just described. And in a sense, it's like Hashem is setting up the whole contest. That's a deep thought. I don't necessarily want to go into the whole mechanics of that deep thought because it doesn't really matter so much. What matters is the effect. But fundamentally, Rebbe Nachman is saying that Hashem, Yitbarach, he's basically setting up a contest in our own heads. As if it were like kings who bring wild animals together, or maybe they're domesticated animals, but the point is they're animals that are at odds with each other and they're going to fight, and in the end the kings know that they're going to fight. This is a battle that only one of these two is going to survive this come out of this encounter alive. That's like Hashem literally allowing into our minds our good thoughts and our bad thoughts. That's what he's saying. Let's go on. Umanichim bekavana milmala, and this is in the intent of the Most High, up above in Shemayim. This falls within His own intent, His own kavana, His own providence, we might say. Sheyenatzachu ze im ze, that these animals would fight each other, and in our real life, that these thoughts would battle each other. This is what Hashem wants of us. He wants us to fight this battle all the time. That's what he wants. And when we're victorious, as Rebbe Nachman said in the beginning, then Hashem gets a lot of pleasure, a lot of nachas ruach from the fact that we were victorious. So if we picture in our mind all the time, as soon as a bad or an evil thought or a fantasy comes into our head, we got to realize, wait a second, this is from Hashem. This is a setup. It's a game. If you think of it like a game, you won't panic so much. But people like playing games. So play the game. You're in a game. You're the star. You're the arena. And your brain is the arena. And Hashem is standing there on high, looking down, inside of your brain, inside of your thoughts, inside of your headspace. And now there's these two animals looking at each other. One is roar, growling, and the other one is growling and hissing. And Hashem said, let's see what's going to happen now. Is my son, is my daughter going to be victorious or no? That's what's happened. Let's continue to read. V'yesh el hakadosh baruch hu tanu gadol k'she'adam mitgaber al hachayot tameot u'menatzeach otam. That Hashem, the Holy One, blessed be He, gets a lot of pleasure when the person is victorious, right, over the non-kosher animals, and he defeats them. Meaning, what are the non-kosher animals? The bad thoughts, the machshavot ra'ot, and these, hiyohurim, these fantasies that we know we shouldn't be thinking about. Now, sometimes fantasies don't always have to be like, sexual fantasies. I'm not just talking about that. Although with men, that's a real serious problem. But it could be other things too. For example, some people are prone to depression, right? They're like neurotic people. Hands off anybody, right? So sometimes it could be that they get thoughts that are just like negative thoughts. They're not like fantasies, like, sexual fantasies, but they're potentially negative thoughts. And then you have to ask yourself the question, do I entertain that negative thought? What's the point of entertaining the negative thought? That's also falls into this concept here of thoughts that are bad thoughts and or hiyohurim. Don't just limit yourself to thinking about sexual fantasies, because it's much broader than that. It's really any kinds of thoughts. We're gonna see categories here in a second, but it's a real easy test that we can give to ourselves to figure out whether the thought that popped into our head is a thought that we need to entertain and give it credence, or whether it's a thought that we should banish. We still yet haven't figured out how to banish the thought yet. All we're doing is setting up this great mashal that we can remember it. Okay, that's true, but that's good. I want to spend a lot of time on the mashal because that's what you're going to remember. And if you just remember all the time that, okay, I'm just in a contest. And you don't have to feel bad. Where does bad thought come from? And you start whipping yourself. Oh, I'm such a terrible person, I have this bad thought. No, you're not a terrible person because you had the bad thought. You're not. It has nothing to do with that. Great tzaddikim can have bad thoughts. The question is, what do I do once the thought popped into my brain? That's the determining factor. Remember, this whole thing was a setup. It was a setup. Hashem is like the king, and the kings put together these animals into the arena. That's what Hashem is doing. There's good thoughts and bad thoughts. It's part of it's the bing, 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 bing coming from all different directions. That does not determine whether you're a good person or a bad person. So make sure we understand that. You may think to yourself, where did I get this bad thought from? Okay, don't worry about where you get the bad thought from. It's not a practically useful question because you're not going to be able to answer it anyway. Okay, fine. If you're like looking at stuff you shouldn't have been looking at for the past 5 hours, you wonder where you get the bad thought from. Okay, we understand. But if you're like just sitting around eating a meal and you're just doing your own thing, you're mowing the lawn, you're going for a walk in the woods, and all of a sudden, bing, 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 all these crazy thoughts pop in your head. So where'd that come from? Why did I deserve this? Not why did I deserve this, but yeah, I deserve this. Now I'm in the arena. Now there's a contest. Now there's the competition. And now I have an opportunity to give Hashem tanug, pleasure. All right, so let's go on to the next paragraph. Hakalal, this is the rule. What's the rule? Let's read the rule. This is This is so important. You got to write this down. Very important. She'i efshar b'shum ofen ba'olam she'iyu shnei machshavot b'yachad b'pam achad. It is impossible. I'll translate word for word. It is impossible in any way whatsoever that two thoughts can exist together at the same time in your head. We're like a computer that doesn't know how to multitask. And even, I don't know what computers are like today. It's not my field. But I remember a long time ago when we started to learn about computers doing multitasking, having different windows. I remember learning in school that it wasn't that the computer is doing multiple things at once. It's just that it's flipping from this to that one so fast that it gives the appearance of it's processing two things at once. But it's not. It just does this, and it does that, and it does this, and does this, and does that, and that, and right? That's the word. Bing, 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 bing. And because it's going back and forth between these two things so fast, it appears to us that the computer is doing more than one thing at once. Well, I guess if you have multiple processors, maybe it can do more things at once. But I think in a single processor, it can only actually do one function at a time. One, O or 1, 1, whatever those are called, bits or bytes or whatever they are. That's it. Well, that's like our brain. We can only, literally at one given time, we can only handle a single thought at a time. It's really a very beautiful thought to think that. You say, well, wait a second, I'm thinking this, and I'm thinking this, and I'm thinking this, and I'm thinking this. No, you're not. You're thinking one after the other so fast. You just think that you're thinking multiple things at a time. It's an illusion. You might call it a delusion, right? Because it's not true. It's not true at all. The truth of the matter is that at any given time, we are literally only able to think a single thought. Now, you might think that's a big limitation, but I'm going to tell you that it's actually, based on Rebbe Nachman, I'm going to say that it's a great revelation. It's a great asset. It's a great ally to know that I can only think one thing at a time. This is going to be the impetus for the solution. How do we get rid of the bad thoughts? If it's true that I can only handle one thought at a time, you think about it, I can only handle one thought. Don't confuse me. I can only handle one thought at a time. Great. So that means that I can easily replace one with the other. It's like, that's it. If I bring in a good thought and focus on the good thought, then automatically it's going to push out the bad thought because I can't hold in my brain at one given moment two simultaneous thoughts. It's not possible. So that's going to be the solution for how to get rid of the bad thought. Just think of the good thought. And automatically the bad thought, he's not there. Because you can't have both at the same time. When we think that we're having two thoughts at the same time, and therefore it's a trap, it's a setup. That's what it is. You're being set up wrongly by the Satan. The Satan, the Samech Mem, right? The Sitra Achra, the side that's opposed to Hashem, that side wants you to believe that you can have two thoughts at once. Why does he want you to believe that? Because then you can get really confused. Because you can say, oh, I'm thinking the good one, and I'm thinking the bad one, and how do I get rid of it? I can't. And you're going to get yourself all discombobulated because you believe wrongly that I can hold two thoughts simultaneously. If you, in fact, know the truth, which is that you cannot hold two thoughts simultaneously, now you have a solution. Now you have the solution to our fundamental existential problem. Let's go on. Al-Kain Bekal. He says, easily, Yecholin legaresh machshavot ra'ot. It's easy to banish these bad thoughts. It's easy? What are you talking to me? It's easy. It was so easy. Why are we walking around with bad thoughts all the time? Well, not our women, of course. Our women don't have bad thoughts. It just is only for men. Rak. This is what we do. Rak b'shev v'al taseh. Just sit down. And if you're standing and walking, just keep walking. But the point is, don't panic. Just calm down and don't do anything. Because you see, the doing of the physical actions is nothing to do with where the battle is. The battle is the arena in our mind. Therefore, we don't need to be moving the body. It's not helping. It's not a physical battle where you're jolting and this and that. It's going to somehow What's got one got to do with the other? Nothing. So the best way that Rebbe Nachman says that we're going to be able to win this contest is just calm down. Just sit down and don't do anything. Now, what do we do when we're sitting down, not doing anything? Dahainu, he's going to explain. That is to say, Shelo lachshov oto hamachshava. We simply choose not to think about that thought. Now, that is our choice. We didn't necessarily choose that the bad thought popped into our mind. We didn't necessarily choose that this fantasy popped into our mind, man. You didn't choose that necessarily at all. You didn't necessarily choose that some depressing thought entered into your mind. You didn't necessarily choose that either. The choice comes, the bechira comes, whether we're going to continue to think about it. That's the choice. And that Hashem has given to us control of. We have control over that. That's bechira. That people talk about free will. What is free will? We just defined it. That's the arena of free will. Your free will, my free will, all of our free wills together is exactly at this point. Whether we will choose to hold on and think about the thought that we're not supposed to be thinking of, or whether instead we're going to hold on to and think about a thought that we should be thinking about. That is a choice that every one of us can make. Now, it requires discipline. We have to know how to do it. And we got to choose to do it. And then keep following through. And you know what's going to happen? You're going to say, okay, fine, I don't want to think about that. Let me think about something else. You're going to try to think about something else. And then what's going to happen? You know what happens. Your mind, bing, goes over there to the bad thought again. That's what happens. But remember, as soon as you went over to that bad thought, you stop thinking about the good thought. Right? You're not having two thoughts at the same time. You just got diverted. Once again, fine, no problem. Understand what just happened and say, no, I'm not going to entertain myself on that bad thought. And then go back and think about the good thought again. As soon as you decide to think about that good thought, the bad thought is gone. It cannot exist in your mind. It just doesn't exist there. Not then. It's not possible. So you keep thinking about that good thought. And every time you stop thinking about the good thought, yes, you may go back and think about that bad thing. And fine, so recognize it. Don't panic. Don't freak out. Don't get all depressed about it. Just say, oh, right, now I'm thinking about the bad thought. I don't want to think about the bad thought. I want to think about the good thought. And then think about the good thought again. And that's what you do over and over and over again. The more you do that, the more we all do that, the more we get accustomed to doing that, the more successful we're going to be. And that's what gives Hashem, tanug. That's what gives him pleasure. When he said that's how we win. Now, I've been told that the Sitra Achra, the Satan, he has an attention span of about 5 minutes. That's about it. He can last for about 5 minutes. Which is to say that if you can last 5 minutes, then the battle's over. You're not going to have to battle for 60 minutes. Not one shot. Each individual battle will last approximately no more than 10 minutes. Because after 10 minutes, if you keep trying to think about the good thought, the Sultan says, oh, this is ridiculous. I'm going to find somebody else that I can win. He gives up. He's not going to keep, bashing his head against the wall when he knows that he's not being successful. So after 5 minutes, he says, fine, this is stupid. I'm going to go somewhere else. And he'll leave you. And all of a sudden, because you force yourself to keep thinking about good things, you realize, hey, where'd the bad thought go? And you forgot it. It's gone. That's why Chazal say that when you're attacked by the Samech Mem, drag him into the base medrash. What is it, some kind of magic show? No. The explanation of that Chazal is as follows. That when you drag yourself into the base medrash, and the way the Chazal says you drag the Yetzer Hara into the base medrash. What does that really mean? It means start thinking about Torah. That's what it means. Start thinking about Torah. And the fact that you're in the base medrash and you're thinking about Torah, then you're not going to be thinking about the bad thought, which is the Yetzer Hara. That's what Chazal is telling you. It's not like some magic show that I'm going to drag myself into the base medrash and all of a sudden I'm not going to have bad thoughts. No, they're simply saying, just think about something right. You think about something right, and the Yetzer Hara will leave. Okay, let's go back to the notes. Right, so you're not going to think about that bad thought. Rak lachshov eze machshava acheret. Just think of something else. Something else. Just decide right then and there, I'm going to think about something else. What am I going to think about? So let's see what Rebbe Nachman says. He says something about Torah, or avoda, or afilu masa umatan. He gives us 3 categories. We can broaden it. But basically he's saying, number 1, think about a Torah. Think about some Torah that you know. So I don't know any Torah. So that's why you're supposed to learn Torah. You're supposed to learn Torah so that at that moment you can think about some Torah. Think of a story. Think about the Akedah. Think about Abraham. Think about Adam in the garden. Think about Yaakov. Think about Moshe and Aaron. Think about the splitting of the sea. Think about some Mishnah. If you have Mishnayos in your head. If you're at a level where you're learning Gemara and you just finished learning some sugya, start thinking about that sugya. Start thinking about Rava and Abaye and Rav and Shmuel. What's going on? Just start thinking about Torah, any level whatsoever. Number 1, that's a strategy, because as soon as you start thinking about Torah, you're not thinking about the other. You're not thinking about the other bad thought. But you know what's going to happen? You're going to say, "Oh, I want to go back and think about that bad thought." You're going to feel that. You're going to feel, "No, I don't want to think about the Torah. I want to entertain that bad thought." That's the way we are. We're like twisted. That's okay. Don't panic and don't get yourself all bent out of shape. But that's what's going to happen. We're going to want to go back to that bad thought, and it'll last for 5 minutes. If you can just keep going back to the good thought for 5 minutes straight, you'll defeat that Yetzer Hara at that battle until the next battle. That's the way it'll be. Or avoda. That's the next thing that Rebbe Nachman says. Think of some avoda. What is avoda? Avodah. Well, the word means service, to serve Hashem. And it could be anything like prayer, all right? Some aspect of how you serve Hashem in the course of the day. Maybe you're trying to get up for chatzot, right? To do tikkun chatzot, especially now that it's the 3 weeks, and it's hard for you. It's really hard for you, And so you just start thinking about that. It's thinking, well, it would be good for me to try to get up for a chatzot in the middle of the night and be able to do tikkun chatzot. Even if I could do it once, even if I could just sit on the floor for 5 minutes and say one little tehillim, that also be a good thing. And then I go back to sleep afterward, maybe. Just think about that. Think about praise. Think about saying thank you, Hashem. Thank you for my life. Thank you for my wife, who is my life. Thank you for my kids. Thank you for my job. Thank you for where I live, even though I live in a really crazy place that makes no sense. Like one of our friends told me the other day, it doesn't matter. We can still thank Hashem no matter where we are. Because why? Because that's where Hashem has us. And if Hashem has us there, wherever that there is in your life, then that's exactly, strangely enough, the best place for you right now. That's a hard thought sometimes to grasp, but it's true. If Hashem has got you some place right now, then that's where you need to be. That's where you're supposed to be. So then you can simply say, I don't understand it, Hashem. I don't know why I'm here. I don't even like being here. I wish I was somewhere else, but I know that it must be good, because all you do for me is good. That's also an aspect of avodah, of serving Hashem. Maybe if you know of a song, if you know of some little ditty, some little Torah song, start humming it, start singing it. Sing Uman Rosh Hashanah, Uman Rosh Hashanah. Sing something. Anything that you can immediately just quickly go to without even having to think. That's also an aspect of avodah. Praising Hashem. Hashem, you're great. Your word is great. Everything about you is great. You only love me so much. I got this crazy thing going on in my head right now. I don't know what's going on. I don't want this battle, but you gave me the battle. So help me out. That's called tefillah, right? Prayer. That's also an aspect of avodah. Just get your thought away from the bad thought. And then he says, even mashal matan. What's mashal matan? It means business. It means business dealings. So if you like doing business, then think about it. Think about some business deal you're trying to work on. Think about some strategy. How can I be successful in business? Doesn't matter what it is. Just don't think about a bad thought. It's not wrong to think about business, depending on where you are and what you're doing. Obviously, in the middle of prayer, it's not a good thing. But if you're right now in the arena, and that means that you've got a contest that Hashem set up inside your head space, then Rebbe Nachman says you can even think about doing a business deal. You can think about work. That means, therefore, that I can think about all kinds of things. I can think about nice music. I can think about, I don't know, the place where I live. There's no limitation to the things I can think of. They can even be neutral. I can think about a flower. Beautiful flowers. Hashem, you make beautiful flowers. You know, if I'm a scientist, I can think about something that I know about science. If I'm a musician, I can think about music. If I'm maybe I'm a carpenter, I can think about wood and what. I don't care. Whatever relates to you. Ki I afshar, and he says it again. He repeats himself in order to drive home the point. Ki I afshar sheyesh shnei machshot biyachad b'shum ofen. It is impossible for two thoughts to exist together in any way whatsoever. It's just not possible. So as soon as we think about the other thing, then the other thought's gone. That's the great secret that Rebbe Nachman is teaching us. It's simple. And you don't have to like go, Hashem, and start screaming and doing all this, you know. No, you don't need to do that. What did he say? He said, Shev v'lo taseh. Just sit down and don't do anything. Because the battle is about a thought. The thought doesn't involve you going crazy with your body. It's nothing to do with that. It's not going to get you anywhere. In fact, Rebbe Nachman is going to talk about that. He's going to tell you it's going to make it worse. Before we read the last paragraph, I want to add a personal side to this whole story because I don't mind sharing a little bit of my life, but I'm one that tends to think about negative things. Those who know me know it's true. That's why I find Rebbe Nachman to be so helpful to me because he teaches me trains me how I can overcome this problem. That's an aspect of being what's called neurotic, that you draw your energy from the negative. It's not good, obviously. So you can sometimes think of a thought and you think it's actually a holy thought. We can all be tricked and deluded, just like Chava was tricked in the Gan. She was tricked. She thought that what the Satan was telling her was a good piece of advice. She was tricked. She was seduced. You know what? You think that the Satan doesn't do that today? He gave up on seducing people? He gave up on tricking people? No. But, it could be. You said, I don't have any problem thinking about bad, like fantasies. I'm not into that. I'm too old. Maybe you're 80 years old and you don't generally think about, stuff like that so much anymore, let's say. Great, shkoyach. But you could also have other bad thoughts, depressing thoughts. Thoughts that really, you might think that they're nice thoughts. Maybe, for example, you miss somebody. Somebody passed away in your life that you really loved. And they're not here anymore. And you start thinking about how much you miss them. And you can convince yourself, what's so wrong with that? That's good, shows my love for them. See, that's the trick. It's not Torah, it's not avoda, it's not even masan and matan. It's not tefillah. There's no point to it. And it's a trick of the samach mem. It's a trick of the samach mem to just keep us down and negative. There's no point to it. Nothing's good is going to come about it. You're not going to bring that person back to life again. So also, this is you in the garden, just like Chava, being tricked by a seductive strategy of the samach mem. And you think that it's a good thing. Now, most people don't think that sexual fantasies is a good thing. Let's say we're all kind of like Torah people. We know that that's not a right thing. Okay, great. I'll give us that. But not all of us understand and know that even things like that, thinking about a beloved dead relative and wishing that they were here again and, trying to think all those nice thoughts about all the good times you had with the person, we may not think that that's not a good thought. It's not a good thought because it doesn't go anywhere. There's nothing you can do. It's just a thought that wanders around in this space of nowhere. Like even the doldrums, just going around and around and around. That is literally a trick and a deceitful tactic of the samach mem. So we have to think. Rebbe Nachman gave us 3 basic categories: Torah, avoda, and even business. If it doesn't fall into that category, let's say thinking about a deceased relative or a beloved one, if it doesn't, where is that? It's not Torah. It's not avoda. It's not masan umatan. It's not business. So what is it? It's a bad thought from the Samach man. That's what it is. All right, last paragraph. Ukavar mavoar b'makom acher. We already explained in another place. He tells us it's in chapter Ayin Bet, which is 72. She'ein tzrichim la'asot milchama u'lananeh rosho ana va'ana k'dei lagaresh machshavot ro. We don't have to fight a big war. It means like, you know, with our bodies, or like shake our heads this way and that way. Oh, so I get these bad thoughts, and we go through all these gyrations. You know, you don't have to do that. That's not going to work to expel the bad thoughts. Ki ein ze mo'il klal. He said, this doesn't help at all. It doesn't help at all. Not only does it not help, he says, adraba. On the contrary, mit gabrim yoter. We just strengthen those bad thoughts even more. Rak, what do we do? Livli lahashgiach alehem kalal. Don't pay attention to them at all. The whole war is a thought war. We are in a sense, a matrix, and the whole essence of the matrix is always wars regarding our thoughts. It's all that, from beginning to end. From the time we wake up one day to the time we wake up the very next day. Everything, it deals with the war in our heads. And he's just simply saying here, when you get those thoughts, and they will come to you, and it doesn't mean that you're bad because you get them. It could be that Hashem sent them to you. He gave them to you just like the king created the contest. He wants to test you. Hashem wants you to win so that he can get nachas ruach from you. Just look at it positively. Don't think it's some terrible thing about yourself. Don't beat yourself up. And then once you know that that's what's happening, you know that I'm just being set up. It's just a game. I'm in a game. You know, kids love playing games. So be a kid. Enjoy the game. And now you know from the game master, one of the great champions of the game himself, Rebbe Nachman, how to win. He's telling you how to win the game. Rak lasod et shelo bameh shehu osek. Just keep doing the right thing that you're doing. Just do what you're doing. I was going for a walk, looking at the trees and enjoying myself. So just keep doing that. And it can happen in the middle of hitbodedut. You're doing hitbodedut, all of a sudden you stop for a second, all of a sudden, whammo, bad thought comes in your head. Okay, don't panic. Just go back to your hitbodedut, be calm. That's what he means by shev velo taseh, that sit down and don't do anything. It doesn't mean to literally sit down. It's an expression of Gemara. It just means don't do anything. Just keep on, be calm. Don't freak out. And then he says, Bitorah, O tefillah, O masa matan. He tells us there. Here he substitutes the word tefillah for avoda. So tefillah is of course prayer. V'livli lehistakel la'acharav klal. Don't look at that other thing at all. Don't look behind. Don't look at it. Just don't focus on it. Yes, it's there. Yes, it popped into your head. You have a choice to make. Entertain it or don't entertain it. See, we're not supposed to be in the entertainment industry. We're gladiators. So I'm not a gladiator. I don't feel like a gladiator. Yeah, you're a gladiator. And you're in the battle all the time. Just don't focus on that other thing. Just don't focus on it. As soon as it's there, acknowledge it. Yeah, I see you over there. I see you. I know what you're trying to do. I'm over here thinking about Torah. I'm over here thinking about tefillah. Yeah, I'm going to ignore you. That you win the battle by ignoring the negative thought. What's going to happen is you're going to go from whatever level you're at to another level. And you defeat all those baddies on that level, you're going to go up to the next level. Like old computer games, you go up these different levels. But that's okay. Again, don't panic. The fact that you seem to be getting stronger adversaries is just a sign that you're being successful. And now you're able to handle the stronger adversaries. And that's actually a good thing. It's actually a very good sign, okay, for progress. All right, so B'ezrat Hashem, you'll be able to employ these strategies and be successful in your life, and give Hashem lots of nachas ruach. Till next time, this is Hosea Allen, Shoemaker Workshop. Have yourselves a great week.